Our Land Heal program is Fairfax County Park Authority's ecological restoration program, implementing projects that will restore unhealthy natural areas on parkland. Natural areas and open spaces degrade over time, especially when they're in the context of a very urbanized, densely populated place like Fairfax County. So ecological restoration is needed to return these unhealthy, degraded systems back into something healthy that can provide benefits to wildlife and also to the people in the community. The main 4 steps for doing ecological restoration are funding, planning, implementation, and maintenance. During the planning phase, we determine what goals the restoration is going to try to achieve and how we're going to get there. The first thing to do is go out to the site where you're going to do the restoration and take a baseline inventory, do an assessment of what the current conditions on the site are. And that includes looking at things like the health of the plants, the trees, the forest, also looking at what condition the soil is in, if there are streams. Once you have your baseline information from the site's current conditions, you can start to formulate goals and objectives. To measure success, we use a set of standards from the Society for Ecological Restoration, and the 6 attributes that are in these standards are the absence of threats, the physical conditions of the site, the species composition, structural diversity, ecosystem functionality, and external exchanges. An example of absence of threats would be the lack of non-native invasive species on the site. An example of physical conditions would be to have healthy soil and appropriate hydrology for the site. An example of species composition would be to have the native species that you desire to be part of that natural community. An example that we would look at for structural diversity would be having the multiple layers in a forest canopy, the understory and the smaller shrub layer. An example of ecosystem functionality would be having appropriate plant and animal interactions such as pollination by bees. An example of external exchanges would be the migration of plant seeds or animals into the site from other areas. An ecological restoration project probably takes 2 to 4 years, but the recovery of the plants can actually take much longer than that depending on what type of system we're talking about. A grassland restoration can occur in 2 to 4 years. However, with a forest restoration, these plants can take maybe decades before you have a full forest canopy again. Once the project is completed and the implementation phase is over, we begin the maintenance phase, which is the long-term care for the new natural system that we've created. We need to be able to counteract the stresses with a beneficial boost in the form of restoration.